Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Chamber, welcome to our Doing Business webinar series with today, Doing Business in Trinidad and Tobago. We thank all of our speakers and presenters for their efforts and cooperation during all the preparatory sessions leading to today's event. This webinar is part of the execution of the Chamber's white paper called 𝗂𝗶𝗴 𝗕𝘂𝘀𝗀𝗀, specifically the part of connecting to the world economy, expanding the international knowledge of our entrepreneurs and their export opportunities. For today, in close cooperation with the Trinidad and Tobago Coalition of Services and the Kingdom's Embassy based in Trinidad and Tobago, we bring to you Doing Business in Trinidad and Tobago. I would like to pass the floor now to our first speaker of today, Mr. 𝗵𝗂𝗂𝗀𝗴, Trade Officer at the Kingdom of the Netherlands Embassy in Trinidad and Tobago. 𝗵𝗂𝗂𝗀𝗴.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Am I here? Are we seeing each other? Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Bon tardi. Many thanks from the Ambassador and the Embassy of the Kingdom of the Netherlands to the Curaçao Chamber of Commerce and the Trinidad and Tobago Coalition of Services for having me, 𝗵𝗂𝗂𝗀𝗴𝗃 of the Embassy's Trade Department, take part in this super webinar, Doing Business in Trinidad and Tobago. A little bit of info on the Embassy in Trinidad and Tobago. We are responsible for handling the affairs of the Kingdom of the Netherlands in all the countries from Antigua-Barbuda right down to Trinidad and Tobago. This means that for you, the exporter from Curaçao, doing business in Trinidad and Tobago got even bigger, as using the hub of Trinidad and Tobago, you can access all these other countries. Hopefully, with the opening of the borders of Trinidad and Tobago, pretty soon, we will also welcome additional transport connection possibilities between the Kingdom of the Netherlands, and in this case, Curaçao and Trinidad and Tobago. I would very much like to give you, in this embassy's short opening remarks, a big hearty welcome to the entrepreneurs from Curaçao seeking business opportunities in Trinidad and Tobago, and to let you know that we here at the embassy are willing to give you as much assistance as we possibly can in opening the doors to partnering in Trinidad and Tobago. We would also like the business representatives from Trinidad and Tobago to feel very much welcome that doing business in Curaçao, they can make their first step through the embassy in Port of Spain. The Trade Department of the Embassy of the Kingdom of the Netherlands looks forward to chatting further during the rest of this evening session in the meeting room provided for us to engage each other. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, 𝗵𝗂𝗂𝗀𝗴𝗃. And now I would like to continue with Ms. 𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗃𝗂𝗃, CEO of the Trinidad and Tobago Coalition of Services Industries. 𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗃𝗂𝗃.
Thank you, Stephen. Bon tardi, I was telling Stephen that we have been preparing for this webinar for quite some time, and they didn't take the opportunity to teach me any Dutch. I'm hoping that this is going to be an ongoing relationship, so I'll get the opportunity to learn some Dutch in the process. Are you all seeing my screen?
Yes.
So I'm going to provide you with an insight into doing business with Trinidad and Tobago. And what I'm going to do is a bit different. I'm going to focus on information that I feel, information that is new, that is not available anywhere. So I'm hoping that this is value-added information and will guide your strategy to do business with Trinidad and Tobago. What is Trinidad and Tobago in a nutshell? These are some of the buzzwords that you would hear. We are a cosmopolitan nation. Archbishop Desmond Tutu once referred to us as a rainbow nation. We are pretty oil and gas. It's the key economic driver. We are the land of calypso and steel pan, the home of doubles, host of the best carnival in the world, though we are getting some competition now. And as a business person, in terms of our population, it's roughly 1.4 million. Around 70% of our population is aged between 15 and 64. Our population has been static for the last 15 to 20 years. In terms of Human Development Index, we rank 64. So let's see what has been happening with our economy. Pre-COVID-19, we are comparatively a wealthy country with some degree of economic diversification. Again, the stress here is on some degree of economic diversification in terms of the financial sector, manufacturing, and transport sectors. Trinidad and Tobago is the largest Caribbean oil producer and the world's 6th largest exporter of LNG. As in many other hydrocarbons-based economies, the local energy sector was severely impacted by sustained drops in oil and gas prices since the mid-2014s. So back in 2013, 2014, we have been experiencing some shortcomings due to the oil and gas sector. As we said earlier, I am the CEO of the Trinidad and Tobago services industry. So before I get into the services sector, let's look at some of our non-energy sectors. The manufacturing sector has been one of our success stories. The top 3 performing subsectors out of manufacturing has been food and beverage, chemicals, and iron and steel. Last year, the government of Trinidad and Tobago, in collaboration with the Manufacturers Association, launched an ambitious program called an Export Booster Program, geared specifically at doubling exports in the sectors that I highlighted before. And so how are we going to double those exports? Those exports are going to come from what we rank the top 40 exporters in the country in those 3 categories. This Export Booster Program has roughly 16 initiatives, which looks at raising standards, placing trade attaches in each embassy, as well as looking at building the export capacity of manufacturers. Roughly in terms of the manufacturing sector, 20 manufacturers currently account for 80% of non-energy exports. So hence the reason why you see we need to diversify that base there. Now let's look at services. I'm not being biased here, but the services sector, and I hope that you will agree with me that the services sector outside of tourism is one of the sectors that is poised for growth if we put the right programs in place within the Caribbean. What you see on your screen here is roughly some of the subsectors within services that has been performing relatively well. The services sector currently accounts for roughly 43 to 48% of GDP. So what do we do? When you think about manufacturers, TTCSI is the equivalent of the Manufacturers Association for Services. We were established back in 2006. We will be celebrating our 15th anniversary this year. We are an umbrella body for services association in Trinidad and Tobago, and we are profiling ourselves as the voice of services. We currently represent 56 associations in the country with a combined membership of roughly 650,000 companies and persons. So an individual company cannot join the TTCSI. It's strictly associations. Our preliminary research indicates that there are roughly 85 active associations in the country, which means that we represent more than 65% of services associations in the country. So let's take a look at some of the sectors that has the potential to grow, and more importantly, to expand regionally and globally. And why I'm saying this, because there are opportunities within these sectors, within these sub-sectors for joint ventures, as well as for entrepreneurs from your country. So in terms of high priority, tourism, and more specifically, what is referred to as business or meetings, incentives, conventions, exhibition tourism, medical tourism, sports, and education tourism. Of course, there is a saying that wherever there is oil, there is a Trini, so definitely our energy services. And a no-brainer, this is something that is inherent for Trinidad and Tobago. It's our cultural and creative industries. And a new sector that has taken up some steam during COVID is the business and professional services. Business and professional services, it covers a wide range of professionals. We speak about accountants, auditors, lawyers, consultants, architects, health professionals. This covers the whole gambit of professional services. Again, in terms of secondary sectors, education services, financial services, construction, as well as health and wellness. Health and wellness has been one of the sectors that has been flourishing during COVID times, and there are a number of initiatives that are currently in train by professionals in this sector. Again, there's room for organization within this sector. And these sectors will not be, these priority areas were decided based on research conducted by the TTCSI, as well as commission research from the Commonwealth Secretariat and the Ministry of Trade and Industry in Trinidad. So it is not sectors by gut, but it's driven by data and analytics. So I wouldn't spend too much time. Again, I'll share this with you. This is how the TTCSI has been drilling deeper into these sectors to look at not just examine what is happening domestically, but look at global trends. As you will see, and this is an important trend for you all to note, the business and professional services sector within the United States, it's roughly a $2 trillion market. It employs over 12.1 million persons. Number of businesses in the sector is roughly 4.48 million. Again, just think if we were to put our heads together and we go after collectively, just probably say a 5% of this market share. So these are some of the strategies that we are in the process of planning at the TTCSI, again, in collaboration with our members, and by extension, what COVID has done. As I mentioned before, TTCSI is part of a network of coalitions within CARIFORUM states. And pre-COVID, we would wait until we get some funding to meet in a particular country. But again, COVID has been a blessing in disguise, whereby we now meet virtually. We have set up WhatsApp chats so that integration is happening quickly and fastly, and which means that there are projects that CSIs in the region are working on jointly. Another area that we are focused on is sector prioritization is the financial sector. This is a pretty mature sector in Trinidad and Tobago. Now let's talk about some opportunities in terms of cultural and creative industries. There is a growing, the animation industry is roughly a $10 trillion industry. Animators within the Caribbean has been able to break into a niche market, which is video gaming, specifically gamers from Jamaica and Trinidad and Tobago. And what we are seeing is that there are elements where they are collaborating for that full value chain. So in terms of the competitive factors, Trinidad and Tobago, the government of Trinidad and Tobago has spent a lot of money in terms of developing the human capital. There are a number of institutions, such as the University of Trinidad and Tobago, that has a number of programs specifically for animation. There are a number of incentives whereby government provides not just fiscal incentives, but also incentives to enhance the export capacity of these entrepreneurs within the sector. Now, what are some of the areas, some opportunities? Trinidad and Tobago for the last decade has been trying to brand itself as a cultural and creative hub. And in essence, we have not there. This is happening piecemeal. So these are some of the areas that we need competencies, we need skilled persons to assist us with. As well as in terms of that value chain, if we look at the full value chain within the animation, the music, there are specific niches that there are opportunities for entrepreneurs. I mentioned business and professional services. Again, I would like to spend some time on this because this is an area that has a great potential. An area for an opportunity is that roughly most of these firms within the sector are micro firms. And in order to pivot, they have had to transform digitally. They have not done that successfully because they may have created a social media platform, but there is now an opportunity where it's a new learning for them that they realize that they need content managers. You need to maintain and update your social media platforms. You need to update your website. So these are new emerging jobs that have emerged as a result of COVID-19. So in essence, I hope I've stimulated some ideas for discussion. I want to close with, doing business in Trinidad and Tobago, there are a number of agencies. One of the key agency institution is InvestTT. Of course, the TTCSI. The TTCSI will be hosting a National Services Week during November 14 to 18. It's going to be a completely virtual event where we will welcome entrepreneurs from your country to come and learn, as well as to learn about what's happening within the services sector in Trinidad and Tobago, as well as for your firms to highlight what you bring to the table, your company's profiles, and how we intend to do this. We will be launching in October of this year a National Services Exporters Portal. And this is where we will highlight, we'll have all the services exporters in the country, as well as these whereby investors and persons who want to do business with Trinidad and Tobago could go to this portal and get information on these businesses as well as opportunities. And that's it for me. Look forward to your questions after.
Thank you very much, Vashti. Thank you very much for your presentation. We will continue now to attorney for the legal aspects, Mr. Ronald Chakri, attorney at law. Please.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you very much for your introduction. And I want to thank Vashti, who went before me, for an excellent presentation. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope that you can hear me very well. This afternoon, I'm being assisted with the presentation in respect of the guiding of the presentation by the 𝗂𝗂𝗂. So I'm on my first slide, and it is a PowerPoint presentation so that we can all easily follow. Just don't worry if it is that for whatever technical reason we can't see it, it is going to be provided to you at the end by the 𝗂𝗂𝗂. So I just want to let all of you know that Trinidad and Tobago is very happy to welcome you all to do business with us here. And of course, in doing the legal aspect, this is where you have a lot of the formalizations of, the formalization of setting up your business, of setting up trade here, for want of a better term. And Trinidad and Tobago has a very robust and very healthy legal structure and a very healthy civil structure. I practice in the area of civil law, and so I practice in the areas that I'm able to speak to. And things are quite. It's very well organized, and so I'll just get straight into my my presentation. So again, my name is Ronald Chakri, attorney at law, and I'm attached to the 𝗓𝗂𝗶𝗴 law chambers of Port of Spain. So one of the most important things that we all must understand, I know that we can do many meetings and so on online, but there's a point in time where you may need to visit Trinidad, or you may have to visit Trinidad and Tobago for to physically be here and conduct business. Well, we do have, like all countries, we do have regulations in respect of arrival and in respect of COVID-19. All travelers must arrive with a negative PCR test. So all travelers to Trinidad and Tobago, whether they are nationals or non-nationals, must arrive with a negative COVID-19 PCR test. And on my slide, if you're able to see it, you will see that there's a website link, which you don't need to go to now, but that website is TD Travel Pass, that gives you all of the information that is required in respect of the travel to Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago at present is having the arrival really of nationals who are fully vaccinated, and there's a quarantine period for those who are not nationals and so on. So again, the website that was on the previous slide and on this slide in respect of the Ministry of Health gives all of those details. It's quite a lot to go into, and I wouldn't want to take the time to discuss only that this afternoon. So do have a look at it if you do intend to visit Trinidad in the next few months, Trinidad and Tobago in the next few months. It's very important to understand this will be important for you to even board the aircraft before even entering Trinidad and Tobago. So that's something that we must look at. Now, on my slide that speaks to business registration, this of course is the foundation for those who wish to set up business in Trinidad and Tobago. And you can have a look at some of the pieces of legislation in it. You will see that in the presentation. Of course, we wouldn't go and read all the laws this afternoon in the time that I have, but definitely just to give you an overview, the business registration is governed by the Companies Act 1995 of Trinidad and Tobago and the Registration of Business Names Act. And we in Trinidad and Tobago take this very, very seriously. It is a very sound and well-established process in respect of making an application for a name, reserving that name, and the name of the business is well searched to ensure that it doesn't clash with other business names and so on. And the Registrar General of Trinidad and Tobago handles all of those registration issues. Also, just to let you know that attorneys at law and accountants in Trinidad and Tobago and consultants, Vashti in her presentation spoke about the rise of services. And one of the services that has really taken off during COVID-19 is services such as this business registration services and so on, that where we have essential agents now who are able to do these things and guide us and guide persons like yourself accordingly. So how do you register a business? All of that is can be looked at in terms of what type of business would you like to have. Is it a sole proprietorship, a partnership, a limited liability company? Those are things to consider, and those are some of the main business structures in Trinidad and Tobago. Right. So we spoke about the registration of the name, and I just want to let you know, on the other slide, we're speaking about the company's registry. So the company's registry is a division within the Registrar General's department that handles all of these, that handles the registration of companies and so on. The Registrar General's department, I always say, is the lifeblood of Trinidad and Tobago. That is the department, yes, with the company's registry, but for those of you who may be involved in the purchase of property and so on, there's also the land registry there, and it is also the custodian. The Registrar General is also the custodian of births and deaths and marriage certificates and so on. So really, without that is one of the key components in terms of law and registration for business for Trinidad and Tobago. So my next slide really does speak to the role of the Registrar General's department. It deals with the incorporation of companies under the Companies Act, the registration of business names, and the registration of non-profit organizations under the NPO Act. So there may be businesses that may consider themselves as a non-profit organization. And very recently, within the last 2 or 3 years, we have had some revamping of those laws in respect of the registration of non-profit organizations. And those things are very much looked at with a magnetic glass, so to speak, a magnetic mirror, so to speak, by the Registrar General. And that this is in order to prevent fraud that is very easy to take place. People have been could have in the past registered nonprofits, very easily, but now it is something a little more difficult to do. So you would want to look at that if it is that you are looking at registering a nonprofit. But I think for the purposes of Curaçao and members of the business community, you would more likely be looking at limited liability companies, and we can discuss that further as we go along in the afternoon. One of the important things to note is that you can do a lot of these things yourself or through your agent, but yourself in terms of doing the initial research and the initial readings online through TT Connect and through BusinessLink. So TT BizLink, which you will see in the next few slides, and you would learn about the services. To access that, you must have a TT Connect ID. And TT Connect is a cabinet mandated platform for the rollout of iGov services or online government services such as this. So you must have a TT Connect ID. And of course, if that green link there, if it can be clicked on, it will be excellent to have a look at the TT Connect website. So let's just try to go to that if it's possible. I am going to it from where I am. And it's coming up. And you can see the various services and various pieces of information you can have. It's a very wide website, and it gives you information as a visitor, as a foreigner wanting to do business in Trinidad and Tobago, and so on. I would not go into the rest of the site, but from there you can navigate services for non-residents, services for businesses, particularly of your interest, okay? And then, of course, we will discuss a little bit about TT BizLink. TT BizLink does several services. So from TT Connect, you go into TT BizLink, and there you have your e-company registration. As I said, a consultant, an attorney, or an accountant can do that for you. For those of you in the business of importing or exporting, as the case may be, you will need certain licenses for that, and you can have a look at the requirements through that. There's e-import duty concession service that is offered. E, National Insurance Board registration for businesses that would require national insurance for its staff and so on, locally based. E, Company Partnership BIR and VAT registration. Let me just tell you a bit about this. BIR is the Board of Inland Revenue, and every company should have a BIR number. And when you do qualify in respect of the type of income that you're generating at some point in time, VAT, Value Added Tax registration. There's also the service of the e-certificate of origin for exporters and e-work permit. That is very, very important. If you are establishing business in Trinidad and Tobago and you're having workers from your country or from wherever coming to work in Trinidad and Tobago, they must be legally allowed to work within the jurisdiction of Trinidad and Tobago. And so that's very important to understand. And of course, while it is out of 𝗂𝗂𝗶𝗴, that is managed mainly by the Ministry of National Security Work Permit Division. There's also, as we go along into the other slide, there's the e-vendor registration, e-maritime services registration, e-utilities, and this is a very interesting service that enables companies and individuals to submit online applications for building development approvals and all of that. Now, of course, that might be a bit far-fetched for those who are now thinking about coming to Trinidad in terms of, purchasing property and developing property and so on. But it's very interesting to have a read of. And of course, as we talk about importing and exporting, we're looking at, the issue of the ports, that is, and so at number 11 there you would see e-ports out of the 𝗂𝗂𝗶𝗴. So one of the very important questions many people ask us as attorneys is, well, can we buy property, can we invest in property in Trinidad and Tobago? And the answer is yes. There can be certain restrictions under the Foreign Investment Act, the FIA, but the Foreign Investment Act does in fact allow persons to purchase property. So for example, there may be somebody who is into manufacturing and would wish to purchase a factory or land in which they can then open a factory. This is the kind of information that you would need. And of course, again, once we read the legislation, you're guided by your attorney, your accountant, etc. You're able to have all that information there. The other slide speaks about owning property in Trinidad and Tobago as a foreign investor. Of course, I'm not going to go into all of that, but the information is there for you to have a look at, and that is very, very important if you're looking at that. One of the other important things about doing business in any country is understanding tax responsibilities and how we pay tax in the country that you're doing business in. So this information on tax that I'm sharing with you was sourced from PwC, and the website is there. And I just have an overview of the nature of the tax regime that we have in Trinidad and Tobago. So there's the issues of personal income tax rates, business levy, okay, that is charged to businesses and so on. And as we go along, there is a slide that you would see that deals with all of the pieces of legislation, especially as it regards to tax, okay? And this slide speaks to the permanent establishment of a business and in respect of corporation tax and so on. Yes, many people have mentioned to me that, wow, Trinidad and Tobago has a lot of taxes, and it could seem as a deterrent, but it is not, because there are incentives that can be offered, and of course through the TTCSI you will and through the Ministry of Trade as well, we can have some information on what these would be. So some very important legislation to look at when you do have a chance in respect of doing business in Trinidad and Tobago deals, we can look at from the Customs Act, the Customs Amendment Act, the Value Added Tax Act, very important, Petroleum Taxes Act for those of you in that industry, but most importantly is the Foreign Investment Act as well. And of course, as I mentioned, once you are going through, once you are using the services of an accountant, an attorney, or consultant, as the case may be, you can be better guided. At the very last slide, there is a list of some of the resources in respect of websites that are very important to anybody wanting to establish business and who is already doing business in Trinidad and Tobago, because these things are there's legislation that may be updated from time to time. There may be policies that may be updated from time to time. And so it's very important to have a look at these. Most importantly, as we speak about Trinidad and Tobago in the present COVID environment, and hopefully very soon the post-COVID environment, are the health regulations and so on, and any delays that there may be in respect of getting here. So I want to thank you very much for your attention this evening, this afternoon, and for the opportunity to speak to you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ronald. For now, continue to Mr. Aidan Alain, President of the Shipping Association of Trinidad and Tobago, for some short
Good afternoon, everyone. Am I being heard by everyone? Everyone is hearing me? Great. I see some thumbs up on my screen. Thank you very much for hosting this session. Thank you very much for inviting me to give my little input. Vashti, Lindsay, and Ronald, I'm going to come after you guys. You all were spot on. So I'll try not to be too redundant with what I have to say. I'm speaking with respect to the shipping industry, of course, shipping and logistics in Trinidad and Tobago. And if I'm to, Ronald did a very detailed take on the legal requirements. So, and that touched a little bit on some of the requirements with respect to moving cargo, moving stuff between Trinidad and the rest of the world. Trinidad and Tobago, in terms of, we are in the middle of globalization, and we sit in the middle of it. In terms of accessibility, every major containerized shipping line globally calls Trinidad and Tobago and offers services to and from the lucrative markets. So we do have Maersk, CMA, CGM, MSC, these global liners, China Shipping, COSCO, these global shipping lines that call to Trinidad. Some of them specializing in trade from the Far East, some involved in Far East trade as well as trade in the Americas and with our side and Europe. Then we have also the regional lines that focus in the trade amongst the Americas, north-south, in relation to Trinidad and Tobago. So that will be Seaboard Marine, Tropical Shipping, King Ocean, Crowley. We have the Caribbean Feeder Service that operates as a tramp, linking the smaller territories and so on. And this is as it relates to containerized cargo. We also do have a number of shipping lines calling Trinidad that feed specifically the industry side of things and oil and gas. So like Intermarine with bringing big equipment from Houston and so on. We do have that feed. The infrastructure that facilitates that trade, the vessels that do that, we have two major ports in Trinidad and Tobago, general cargo ports. That would be the Port of Spain, which is the largest port in the country, and we also have Plipdeco Industrial Port, port that does general cargo as well as industry type cargo for the energy, oil and natural gas downstream, ammonia, methanol, all of this kind of stuff pass through that area as well. In addition to those two major ports, we have special purpose ports by way of shark terms, Labitco. So in terms of port infrastructure, we are there. And in terms of the way forward, currently the major port, the Port of Spain, is being privatized. We are waiting to see it. It is something that came up over has been going on for 3 decades, but we see now it has been approached with some urgency by the government. We saw that they did some major restructuring with the heritage or legacy of the country with the oil company, Petrotrin. So we are anticipating some kind of change with respect to the ports as well, and with it, We hope to see better productivity, better able to service our markets and so on. We will expect some resistance with that as well, because we do have a strong union movement attached to the ports. So that would be, in terms of accessibilities, we have the lines at 𝗂𝗂𝗂, all of which bring their global international systems for making your bookings and so on. We do have the ports. The productivity level, if I'm to be honest, is we have some work to do there, but they're there and they're functioning. We do have the local agencies representing all these lines. We have a series of freight forwarders, too many to call, names to call. And we also have other service providers that feed the maritime and shipping industry. So now I could, with that as a nutshell sort of scenario, things are, as specifically as it relates to the Dutch and the Dutch Caribbean, we see it was announced in May that KLM will be making direct flights to Trinidad. Hopefully that links up the wider Dutch Caribbean of Curaçao and Aruba and so on as well, because trade-wise, those lanes weren't very active, and I assume because it's not seen as lucrative, the volumes coming from there. So we have to do some work to really get some momentum there. But direct flight from the Netherlands, it just might be the right kind of impetus that we need to really grow this relationship and take advantage of opportunities that may come about. So that's a nutshell with respect to just the full-on macro context of what is going on. But I speak on behalf of the Shipping Association. We have a membership of about 70 companies within the industry, and they're broken out into categories. So we do have the lines and their agents in Group A. This is how the association is structured now. In Group A, Group B, we have the ports, and Group C, we have freight forwarders and other service providers. So it is in that framework, we have access to the entire industry and all the major players. And a huge part of our work as well is stakeholder management, particularly dealing with the statutory stakeholders as well. They're not in any group, but we always have to consider customs, immigration, health, and these are to the forefront of our discussion right now because of COVID, and because as an industry had to make, and a country had to make really quick decisions with respect to how we deal with crew, Trinidadian crew on vessels returning home, and borders being closed and it being open. How do we facilitate that? With vaccination, we had a massive drive nationally, and within the industry as well. We were able to do some 1,000 vaccinations within the shipping industry under the umbrella of vaccinate to operate, to bring us quickly into this post COVID reality that Ronald was talking about. So we're doing a lot of work there with the membership, and we are here, like the consulate, the embassy said, they had to facilitate this work. We are here to do the same thing. The Shipping Association is here to facilitate all that is possible to bolster trade and the relationship, any relationship that comes to us as showing interest, in the spirit of globalization. So that being said, I have a quick presentation about the work we're currently doing at the SATT and how it ties back to what Vashti and Ronald have been speaking about, and how we can bring value to this here. Yeah? So if you don't mind, I'll just share my screen quickly. Let me see if I recall how to do this. Screen share. Everyone is seeing my screen?
No, Hayden.
No?
No. Oh, it's now, yeah.
Now, okay, so this is just a quick thing on the work we're doing in the association. We have 5 pillars, and this is, I became president in April. So this was sort of like the manifesto I put forward. This is how we're going to operate. I have a 1-year term. That's in the constitution. So this is this is our game plan. We have 5 main pillars, the center of which is institutional strengthening. We had a lot of work to do in the secretariat to bring us up to speed. And benchmark more. We want to be more like the TTCSI, the Chamber, Trinidad and Tobago Chamber, raise the game a little bit. So we had some work to do there in terms of institutional strengthening. We have a focus on finding our voice. We want to be the voice of the local industry. That has always been something there. How do we make that real? We look at stakeholder engagement, another critical pillar, membershiping, or how the value that the membership gets out of the association. And then the last one there is lobby. So in terms of institutional strengthening, this I could scan through because this is largely internal, how we're going to strengthen the secretariat and so on, and the core thing. But in terms of finding our voice, our work is really push. We embracing technology, and we're going to redo our website, but more so with a membership portal that brings very specific content to the members, our point of view, opportunities, highlighting our membership, all these sort of things where they can go and really expand their knowledge base on shipping and opportunities out there. So this is a lot of work taking place in here, and is a focus for us right now. In terms of membershiping, how we relate with the membership, we are doing we have done over our membership this database. We are going to building out some membership certificate and a charter. We go back to the membership portal here because it's through the membership portal, that online portal, we are going to be doing a lot of training, utilizing a YouTube channel and YouTube type content delivery to bring content to the membership and to the globe, really. Everything that is there is accessible. We make it accessible. So training, webinars, we want to add an element because of COVID, and our industry was a lot like a very social industry. We connected regularly to share ideas and so on. That has since been done, and it has been a struggle for us. So we trying to see how we could bring back that stakeholder engagement, and this has to do with the approach. Firstly, a collaborative, inclusive approach is what we're looking at, and we've seen it roll out in terms of our COVID-19 response, where we had to we vaccinated over 1,000 people within the industry, really pushing that. It was a patchwork thing that we had to do because we did not get approval for the 1,000 that we applied for initially. But in terms of using our networks and calling the right people, we were able to get the numbers up. And then after that, they came and said, okay, you get the 1,000 that you asked for. We've been working with customs on a number of issues. One of the big issues and the successes we were taking with a low-lying fruit crisis. Don't let a good crisis go to waste. We have COVID, and we were forced to move customs from this manual paradigm that was going on all the time to the point where now they are accepting e-deliveries. Now, it's a rough system, and in principle it works, but to stabilize it, we need to put some more controls in there, and they're on board, and we are working with a project schedule to have that. So that will be one good thing coming out of this crisis here. Customs, at the end of it all, probably by the end of the year, you're going to be moving completely on an electronic basis. You know, no stamp documents. You need to go to offices to get that done. We've been working with the Maritime Division with those same thing in a collaborative approach to address some of the issues we have in there. And one of our major agenda items, and you'll see in a follow-up slide, it's diversification. And so we have purposely gone out there and started working with the TTMA. If you all hear my daughter in the backdrop agitating, is because, who knows, it's the time of the day or something. But sorry about that. So trying to work with other associations to drive that collaborative spirit, as well as being inclusive. So one of the things we did was reached out to the TTCSI to bring us into the fold, to have something to say, and really tie back to a major agenda item for us now, which is now diversification, and which without any prompting, Vashti spoke about. And so I was happy to hear that, to know that we are on the same page. So again, now we talk about the lobby. The first thing, typically we usually put trade facilitation at the top, the ease of doing trade in Trinidad and Tobago, customs, and so on and so on. But there's a bigger picture. Trinidad and Tobago, we can't water it down. We have a bit of a trade imbalance going on. We're a net importer, and it has affected our foreign exchange capacity to the hilt. In fact, Central Bank estimates between 2015 and 2020, the amount of US currency in circulation in Trinidad and Tobago has reduced by 40%. And that is, of course, because of the imbalance of trade. So the need to really be innovative and create export services and export opportunities is at the top of our lobby, because we are now seeing it's not just shipping. And to speak about trade facilitation, if we don't get that balance right, nothing, you can't get your foreign currency, everything goes out of whack. So we are kind of escalating that and trying to have the conversation and drive around diversification more. Trade facilitation would always be there. How easily you could trade is done in Trinidad and Tobago. Regulations. One thing we see as well, with COVID, there is a global shortage of containers, and the freight prices are going through the roof. And there is no regulation, there's no stop to it. It is just, and so we are expecting, some tough times, as is most economies coming after COVID and dealing with the economic impact. But the regulation is an area that we know we are working with our stakeholders, particularly the statutory ones, and where we see the opportunities to put something in and get something done, we are doing it, right? And then the environment, it is something we cannot avoid. It is there. I have 2 young kids. On a lot of the work I do, it's for them. What kind of place am I going to leave for my children? And in everything I do, I need to consider that. So we are also addressing the whole issue of the environment and so on in our framework going forward. And when we discuss a lobby, a focus area of our association, the environment is going to start starring up there as well.
Sorry to bother here, Hayden, but we have like 1 more minute, so we can continue to the last speaker, so we can finish up for the network.
Sure. This is my last slide, which is just a repeat of the 5 pillars. So that's it for me in a nutshell. What we are focusing on in terms of our voice, in terms of our membership, in terms of the lobby, in terms of stakeholder engagement. We are here to work with you. We have our membership fully engaged. Any issue you have, we can be the focal person to broker a meeting, to get negotiations going for you. We can be that point of contact for you. So that's me in a nutshell, and thank you very much for the time.
Thank you very, very much, Hayden. Thank you for your presentation. We will continue now with our last speaker for today. Short remarks from 𝗂𝗂𝗂, from the director, Mr. 𝗧𝗿𝗂𝗂, with regards to doing business currently between Curaçao and Trinidad.
Yes, thank you, Stephen. And also thank you to all the presentations and introductions of several organizations so far. We are KTK Talks. We are a company based in Curaçao, established in 1985, and we are a full subsidiary of state-owned company, Curaçao Ports Authority. So in Curacao, KTK is responsible for all harbor towage, mooring launch, and pilot transport. And we have been doing this for the last 35 years on exclusive basis. So we do own total of 7 tugboats. 4 of the tugs we have located in Curacao. They are in Curacao, and the other 2 tugboats we own, we deploy these to the regional market. At this moment, we have 1 tugboat in Aruba. It's working in Aruba. And we have 1 tugboat operating in Trinidad and Tobago for more than 2 years now. So we are very proud to have a let's say a business relation with Trinidad, and that is till now through mediation of the embassy, the Dutch embassy in Trinidad. So we have been introduced to Trinidad by the former ambassador, Mr. Bijl, working together with Lindley, and they have introduced us in Trinidad to NGC, which is let's say the company in charge of NEC. NEC is the, let's say, the subsidiary of NGC, as you may know, and our relation with NEC so far has been very positive. We have been doing, as I mentioned, business with NEC for more than 2 years by now. We have been also participating, and that is before the pandemic, before COVID, in major events in Trinidad. One of the more important events that we have participated was the Energy Conference. Almost every year we were there. Our first contract with NEC was in February 2019. The first contract was for a year, but after that we have received extensions. The cooperation is running well. We employed locals, local professionals in Trinidad, giving, let's say, supporting the local content of the island, Trinidad and Tobago. Besides that, we do all our purchases, spare stores in Trinidad. So it's a business that, as I mentioned before, that we have been taking care of, supporting, and we do hope that this relationship can continue and that we can find, let's say, more opportunity working together and taking care of business in Trinidad, and find mutual benefits in cooperation with Trinidad. So that's basically what I can inform. And I don't know if there's any question. We can go into that further.
Thank you very much, Cedric, KTK Tugs, for the information and their experience also with doing business with Trinidad. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be leaving this plenary session in a little bit. You will be able to see different tables of our presenters, each table with several seats. So you can click on Take a Seat, and you will be able to join this table and ask your questions, as well as network with the table host or the entrepreneurs. When your questions are completely answered at the tables, feel free to press the purple button called Networking in order to network one-on-one with other entrepreneurs. Please do not leave the session, but take this opportunity to network for about 20 minutes or ask your questions at the different tables. All right? If you have any questions, join my table, Curaçao Chamber, and I will be able to guide you as well. Thank you very